So I have maybe one or two videos that I've already previously done, just never got around to posting them. Like, they're completed. But I was thinking to myself, late yesterday and even all throughout the day, that I need to take a break from the conversation. I did a video called, I'm thankful for my family. And I touched on a couple of things, but basically, I'm sure some of you all have heard about the 14-year-old boy that was shot 18 times. They got two of the people that did it. They're in their 20s. They're in their early 20s. It's like 20-something years old and you shooting a 14-year-old kid. But then I had to think about it, not to put blame on the 14-year-old, but they had the mom up there and they interviewed the mom, and it was either 6 other kids or 6 kids in total. Right? And, the mom's up there. She got tattoos on her neck. She's talking about, my baby didn't do anything but play basketball and listen to music and make jokes or something like that. That's what she said at the news interview. And I'm like, how would you even know what your child is doing out here in these streets when, again, kids to resource ratio, the boy had to take the bus to get to school. I know a lot of people got to do that in the city. That's a world that I know nothing about. Just to speak to the inequality. But, seriously speaking, like, how do you know what he was doing? You got 6 other responsibilities. I don't know whether this woman's on welfare or not. I don't know where the dude is that she got with. But I'm like, I don't know how old this woman was, but she didn't look too old. So I'm like, you got 6 kids. That means for like literally a whole decade, like, you were not doing much but lying on your back and just popping out babies like Pez dispensers. And, I did the video and I realized, like, I'm like, this shit is just too negative. There was another show of I don't know what it was, some panel of black women that were on the panel with these 3 brothers that were sitting across from them. A couple people have done the interviews. There's 3 dark-skinned black women from New York, all of them overweight, not all that appealing to me, but they're up there cocky and arrogant and talking about I never didn't get a nigga that I wanted or something like that, and got the weave and the long eyelashes and the nails, and that shit just doesn't appeal to me. And I was gonna make a video about that, about these masculine ass New York black women, because masculine ass dark-skinned New York black women, although light-skinned women are starting to creep up behind dark-skinned women's masculinity, whether you want to say it's a stereotype or conditions, whatever. I'm just saying the light-skinned women are creeping up behind them as well, because now you're starting to see light-skinned women, they out here wearing tattoos, out here thinking it's cute being ratchet. And I know what it all stems from, because again, these women cater to appealing to street dudes, and that's their model for black men. I don't participate in that. I don't engage in that. So, these women are trying to cater to those guys, and they think that look that they have is what attracts those guys. And I'm like, y'all can have those guys and they can have you, because there ain't nothing going on about these women's vernacular, behavior, speech patterns, freaking style of clothes, just the colloquial phrases, and just that Brooklyn baby, like Iami Loho comes off like that too. I don't like that shit at all. I really can't stand New York black women. I really can't. I hate to break it to you, but I really can't. Because it is like just a profound masculine energy that it's like you would think all of them are dating Pop Smoke. I swear, that's how they come off. That's why I always look sideways at a lot of women that when the violence happens in New York, they try to all act like they're fainting Victorian virgins. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, most of y'all are the hold the gun for your nigga type of bitches. Like, I mean, like, come on. And then, they're immersed in that world for, 15, 20 years. And then they hit the wall. And then, they don't know any other way of being. And then they're bitching because, some established nigga with money ain't trying to fuck with them. And they're just masculine and burly. And, this whole thing about, these genetically blessed sisters that don't, think it's necessary for them to be fit and work out and be active, like some of the, the sisters that you might see that have fitness channels on Instagram. Like, that's not what they're trying to subscribe. The ones that are like, this is my diet, powder, or this is my, elixir of life that they're trying to sell. And it's like, yeah, I mean, aesthetically, that appeals to me more than, way more than what these women are presenting. But I'm just saying, Pink Handbook did a video of, the Mason chick about, she's going off on lead attorney and Kevin Samuels. And I'm one of those people. She talked about her being a chameleon. I'm one of those people that identified her as a chameleon. Because and I did see that interview with lead attorney, and I'm like, yo, the red flag. Like, again, I pick up on that shit so fast. Like, when they start talking about, magic and, just start getting real nuts and berries. Like, shit just doesn't make sense or add up. It's always like some backdoor, slick talking oil, snake oil salesman type of way for them to try to get what they want. They start trying to redefine, well, a real man is this, and a real woman, like she said, percentages of femininity. Like, what the fuck is that? Percentages of femininity? Again, that's that conditional femininity bullshit. I'm like, again, I identified this shit years ago with Chanel Cooper. And, Cap, I mean, he just could not identify. Like, he really couldn't identify. And to him, he was like, you just being, dismissive. Like, I'm like, okay, well, then I guess that's my bougie suburban upbringing. But I'm like, man, I see that shit a mile away. Again, I grew up with the idea that, black women were no different than any other race of woman. And, that's what it was. But that's not the case. So many people are, like, entrenched in the culture now. You'd be hard pressed to find a sister that ain't on that shit. She would literally have to be raised in, the suburbs or somewhere else. But even with that, like, the media promotion, has them all thinking they're boss bitches and shit like that. And so, between that, and then again, I got away from that whole thing with the 14-year-old, but it's just like, it's like none of these women are wrong. Like, they cannot be wrong. They're not wrong. I feel bad, for the kids that are, everybody's talking about, all this shoot 'em up bang bang that's going on in Philly. And, you look at the homes. The vast majority of these homes are not solid foundation homes. They're homes with screwed up gender roles, or, dad's not in the economic position. The black women, like, they just use everything to justify any old bullshit they want to do, whether it's religion or whether it's Afrocentricity or whether it's street shit. Like, it's always something to where, like, you can't just walk in a room and be like, this is how shit's supposed to go down. These are the rules, discipline, structure, all that stuff, and actually have them respect it. They don't respect it. And part of me, I have some empathy when it comes to that, because it's like, I don't believe in just, showing up in the room and telling people, oh, this is how you should act and behave and this, that, and the third, but you have none of the tools that actually facilitate them being able to do that. Again, this is, that falls in the same category as white supremacy, where, you take all the oxygen out of the room and then tell somebody that they should be able to breathe in the same space. So, I do have, some level of understanding, when it comes to that, but still, like, I mean, I'd shut down. Like, it's like, I just can't wrap my head around bringing children into the world, with no resources. You can barely take care of yourself, and then you're bringing kids into the world. But again, like, we have whole environments, whole communities where this is the new normal. And if I come through with my suburban bougie ass standards and everything else, like, you know, which is largely, what do you want to call it? It was, created by the foundation that my parents, established, that they brought me into the world. They didn't bring me into nothing. It was already predetermined that I was going to go to college when I was born. That was the resources were already there. It was just a matter of which school I got into. But it's like, it's shit like that. Like, that molded, like, again, that's why I said, I'm thankful for my parents, because, like, that molded me into the person that I am. But you get these other people that, even the kids, like, people that, like, nobody's going to look in the mirror and just say, oh, eyes ain't shit. Like, nobody's going to do that. So when you start coming in, you got nothing that's going to help them get out of the situation. And then you start pointing things out, all they're going to do is feel bad and then get pissed off at you. That's the natural, reaction. That's the natural response. You're telling the truth, but you don't have a viable solution for them. So it's like, fuck you. And then on top of the fact that, they outnumber you. You see what I'm saying? So, like, everything that you're saying, they get reinforcement. The bullshit existence that they have is getting reinforced by the fact that everybody else around them is operating in a bullshit existence. So you can't even say that it's bullshit. You can't even identify that it's bullshit. Everybody's trying to take shit and make it the new normal. Everybody, as I call it, they're polishing a turd. But, again, since we don't operate in a space where, they particularly see, they see any black people that are in positions of power that define things, every standard will always be seen as a Eurocentric standard, right? And then black people trying to gain, I don't even know what you want to call it. I call it pseudo consciousness. They're going to reject it. It's pseudo consciousness because it's like in other words, trying to have something defined by black people is the right approach. The problem is that they're defining it based on the conditions that white people put them in. So they're trying to redefine, their existence, and they're trying to establish standards based on an environment in which, they were thrust into and locked into. And, that ends up being a problem. And it just frustrates me. I'm like, these are circular arguments. Pink Handbook, she gave her 2 cents about, some woman gave her, a donation or whatever on her Cash App, and was like, you're somehow her making changes or something like that. And it's nice that these things are being put out, but do y'all see any of these women getting it? I don't see any of these women getting it. I don't. Even with that Mason chick, I'm like, you got a 27-year-old divorced daughter with 3 kids, and they had the audacity to go up there and make that video talking about you need to behave because we're gonna get you a new daddy. Like, that's disgusting to me. And it's like, as somebody who already has a negative image and idea of black women, like, I didn't need to see that clip. It's like, God damn it, man. You try to give sisters the benefit of the doubt, and then bam, it's like, oh, here they go doing the same bullshit. Fuck, man. And then, again, they're doubling down all these stupid ass ideas. It's like, I see these black women on the news crying because their sons are dead, and they're screaming, we need more gun control and shit like that. And it's like, in the moment that she's up there crying because her son is dead or her daughter is dead, it's like, you can't say anything. But I'm like, nah, you just like these bitches that are calling in the Kevin Samuels show. And you're just like these bitches that are, on all these shows that men are trying to tell them what the deal is and they ain't listening. And then so these women end up, they become mothers, and their sons get around that age between 18 and 25, which is the dangerous age. And, they get popped here and there. And then she's up there, and then, it turns into, oh, I was doing all I could do and all this other stuff and whatnot. And it's like, it's bullshit. Like, you got people out here, they got half siblings and shit. You know what I mean? As far as I know, no other dicks have been up in my mother except for my biological father. So you got women out here that are just like, they're all over the place. And then it culminates to their sons or their daughters getting killed, or their daughters becoming the new generation of teen mothers and stuff like that. And you can't tell them shit. You can't tell them shit. Just like a sister I was with, her mother talking about, we don't talk about stepchildren around here. Man, the damn hairs went up on the back of my neck when she said that shit. Because I know what that shit, I know where that comes from. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this man took you in, you already had a child, he adopted your child. You know what I mean? And she's just going to ignore the major mistake that she made by getting with, some dusty dude that's got children all over the world. I'm like, bitch, you lucked out. You got lucky. You know what I'm saying? But to sit there, we don't talk about stepchildren, right? Like she's just going to redefine shit. I'm like, humble yourself. Damn, like that's like, I'm telling you, and it's like, again, mothers, like these are like women's mothers and shit. So their mothers are on that bullshit. The mother is on it. The daughter's on it. The granddaughter is on it. I'm just, get me away from this place. You can't, as a black man, you can't just walk in the room, state an obvious truth, and move the fuck on. Yeah, that's true, and then just move the fuck on. You know what I mean? And you heard me first time. She really said it. She really called it out. She said, women are never going to co-sign anything that makes them look bad, gives them a bad reputation, or is not in their collective best interest or personal best interest. So I'm like, okay, so I'm not dealing with logic. I'm dealing with conniving manipulators, and I'm like, I don't know how you can have structure with that. I see other groups of women with their men, and like they're just as much on the structure as much as the men are. It's like a team effort. It's like, we want to have a safe, intact community. Like, and again, I know people, you see all this bullshit online, but again, this is why you think black people always want to move to the white communities. Those white people in those white communities, like especially those, upper middle class white communities, there's major structure there. And the higher up you go, the more structure it is. Just as the higher up you go, the less divorces that you see. Because it comes about more than just individual wants and shit. So, like Captain Solo, you start looking at the landscape, Six the Goddess, I couldn't leave well enough alone. Freaking Brittany Renner and her bullshit. What if I'm supposed to shine? Like, this whole idea of women having legacies, and like they're trying to outshine the man, but yet somehow want to be hypergamous. Karazin, and then her divorce, I'm like, can't even make it work with a white man. After all the shit she was talking, for all the years that she was talking, like, chick, go somewhere. Then you got Jada and Will Smith situation ends meeting like a motherfucker, and yet Jada's up there embarrassed. I mean, bro, I'm like, I need to take a break. Like, I need to take a break. And like I said, a lot of the shit that I see that goes on with these young men, like I said, I watched that clip, and the 14-year-old boy got gunned down, shot 18 times, at the bus stop. And, I'm like, they get to the mother, and it's like 6 kids. That whole environment, it's like, to me, it's like everything. And I don't know who the boy's daddy is. And I don't even know if they all 6 kids have the same daddy. I don't know. All I know is your mama got a tattoo on the side of their neck, and you're in this environment. And then she's got the kids to, like that whole, I have 6 kids. You know what I mean? And I'm in, whatever part of Philly and whatnot. I'm just like, man, I know there was nothing set up for this boy. And the kids don't even know it. You know, like, how could they know anything else? Even amongst their peers. Like, we got whole neighborhoods, whole communities of just black people operating on some bullshit. And it's like, it's bad enough. You know, I could easily just point to white supremacy and talk about the redlining and the blockbusting and everything that created those conditions. That's bad enough. But the fact that, like, even when you point this shit out, like, you got to fight with people because they have developed so many things that are coping mechanisms, and then they call the coping mechanisms the culture. So when you're trying to address the cultural aspect, it's like you're walking up and you're taking away their coping mechanism. And again, we all know how that, again, it's like trying to convince a Christian that it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors and it's a bunch of bullshit. All you're trying to do is trying to feel good about not solving the problem. It doesn't actually solve the problem. Jesus is not going to come down and fix and rearrange the entire universe and every molecule in it just to make it so that you receive something. Because it's impossible for that to be done, and then everybody else, for everybody else's life to not be changed or altered or whatever. People say, oh, no, that's not possible. You know, God can do anything. I'm like, if I have a job and there's one position and there's two people, only one of those people are going to get a job. It doesn't matter how much both of them are praying, you know, that Jesus is going to give them the job. There's only one job. There's only one seat. It's a game of musical chairs. You know, and then you'll have people, oh, well, you know, well, God will create another seat just miraculously. Like that, it's that sort of magical thinking. And I'm saying, you know, the religious aspect, that's one coping mechanism, that's one magical thinking process. And then on the flip side, you have, you know, all the other cultural stuff that has become a coping mechanism in and of itself. And because you have so many people, or a majority of people who are in a particular situation, you know, split homes, half siblings and everything else, please, man, you'd be hard pressed to go in there and talk about how wrong their existence is, or how wrong it is to go out here and have a fucked up kids to resource rate. You know, again, you're in for an argument. You're in for an argument. You're in for being called white, Eurocentric, Uncle Tom Coon, you know, your white standards. And that's what you're in for. You're in for that. You know, and as I can't even talk. As I see it, I just think a lot of these problems are just going to get worse. Because when people are that thick-headed, I don't see how, like speaking with them, having a conversation with them, especially when, you know, again, correcting the problem does require resources. You know what I mean? But you know, people think that if I just give them a word, I know that doesn't work. You know, and truth be told, I'm not just trying to give them a word, I'm trying to get them to think. You know what I'm saying? But their whole, it's like, even if you could get them to think, all you do is produce a situation of anguish, because now they're thinking, now they're in the know, but they don't have the tools. Or they've been in the trenches so long that you literally cannot get them to think any other way other than the way that they do think. Or the way that you're trying to get them to think is not conducive to the environment in which they're in. So unless you can take them out of the environment, them thinking, you know, in survival mode, that's what they got to do in that environment. You know, so it's a headache. And then you just have like all this shit, you know, that the women think they can't be corrected, and they got too much power. You know, the way that they vote, the way that they bring children into the world. You know, like they're not basing it off of patriarchy, so they're not basing it off of a man's resources. You know, it's like I said, you know, Cynthia G did what she did. She was grown. You know, these are not like just, oh, I didn't know. Like, no, these are people making unilateral decisions, which is one of the videos that I was gonna post about. It was something that Pink Handbook put out there, and it was about people. I forget what it was. Oh, it was that Young Jock video, and you had the woman on there that I'm just gonna have the baby anyway. Like, I'm like, are you fucking? This man gave you $600 to get the abortion. You know, and again, I don't know why he left that up to her if he didn't want to have a kid. Why are you busting in her raw? But I'm like, but she just went ahead and made a unilateral decisions. It's shit like that. She created a permanent situation with somebody temporary. And you know who's going to suffer? The child. And then you know who's going to suffer after that? The community. And you know who's going to not be around all that when all that shit's going on? My ass. Because that's all that ends up happening. People, they leave, they move out. You know, just look at it for what it is. People want you to correct problems and shit. You know, oh, we need more gun control, so I'm supposed to be out there with nothing but my ass? But you want this situation handled. No, I'm moving. I'm going to the white suburbs. Bye. You know, you can't, it ain't none of my business how you have a baby, right? But yet my kids have to go to school with your dysfunctional kids because you brought your kids up in a dysfunctional household. No, moving off to the white suburbs. Bye. You know, like it's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And so you end up with a situation where you're angered at white supremacy, but you're frustrated with your own people. And that's just, it's not healthy. It's not good for, my mental health. Don't get it twisted. It's like, I don't want people thinking like, oh my God, Pete's having a nervous mental health break. No, I'm not having a mental health breakdown. I'm just saying, I recognize how unhealthy, the shit is, just speaking about it. Again, I've been at this longer than most people have been at this. I don't know how long I'm gonna take a break. It might be a couple days or whatever, but I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, nah, man, like this is just, I'm tired of the negativity, And unfortunately, people say, oh, why don't you focus on the positive? Because I know the positive doesn't outweigh the negativity. It just doesn't. And then on top of that, the way that the negativity is constantly pushed out there, not just by, black people talking about it, but also by the mainstream media. There's homicides here and this here and the broken community here and this happened and all this negative shit. That affects the very people that you're trying to correct, because they come through and they start believing things that are just wholly untrue. Like I was talking to somebody like about gun control, and they're telling me about 70,000 deaths. And I'm like, first off, that number is hyperinflated. 67% of all gun deaths are suicides. And people are not worried about suicides. They're worried about mass shooting and inner city gang-related, drug-related gun violence. That's what they're worried about. And 85% of all gun homicides are black-on-black crime. 85%. Mass shootings are a drop in the bucket. Then on top of that, when it comes to gun deaths, they categorize all gun deaths as gun deaths. So even defensive uses. So if somebody breaks in your house and you shoot them dead, guess what? That gets categorized into 70,000 gun deaths. There's 2 million. You can go on FBI statistics. 2 million defensive uses of a firearm. You see what I'm saying? So when people go out here with these negative ideas of what's actually going on out here, it goes back to that thing that Jenks Morton did about Boys to Men when he was asking, are there more black men in jail or more black men in college? And everybody was like, oh, there's no niggas in jail. But then he broke down how, it was such an issue for people to think that, and when especially you're comparing a very small number to a very large number. College is typically 18 and 24. Jail is 18 until the day that you die. So when you have a 22-year-old girl acting like niggas in jail is affecting, her dating options and everything, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, were you going to date, a 75-year-old lifer? Okay, so why are you adding that into the statistics? as it pertains to having an effect on you. No, 18 to 24. Let's go with 18 to 24 in jail versus 18 to 24 in college. There's more black men in college than there are in jail. You know what I mean? Just nuts, just wild misinformation. You know, remember when they did the whole 1 in 3 black men are in jail type of, just misquoting the statement. You know what I'm saying? It was 1 in 3 of the black men who are in jail are between the ages of such and such. But somehow that turned into 1 in 3 black men are in jail. And there's only something like 2.5 million people in jail, prison, period. And trust me, one third of all black men is way more than, even within the age group, is way more than 2.5 million. You know what I'm saying? There's 40 some million black people in America. If you just said half and said 20 million of those are women and the other 20 million are men, you know what I'm saying? You see, like, even if I went between a particular age group, you see how you'd be well over the entire prison population, because that 2.5 million encompasses white men, black men, Hispanic men, Asian men, women of all races. That's the entire prison industrial complex, which is only about 2.5 million people. But yet somehow 1 in 3 black men are in jail. Oh, wow. Let's multiply 1/3 by 40 million. Like, not even separating the genders up. Like, that's how stupid the shit is. Not even separating the genders up, not even separating up the age groups. Like, but this is what people believe. So, the negativity and all that shit is just rampant. And I just don't like, people aren't talking sense. And I'm growing very, very much tired. Like I said, you talk to dudes about what's going, they already know. There is no denial, when it comes to black men and our problems. Are there too many black men in jail? Yes. Should more black men have their finances in order? Yes. Should black men be taking care of their kids and whatnot? Yes. But again, if you have women out here, again, that 4-to-1 ratio, you got freaking, Pookie dates, 16 women to the lames, 4 in the same period of time. Like, I'm like, that's why you get these negative, these sort of negative numbers out here when it comes to fathers not being in the home, future situation, guys with multiple baby mamas and stuff like that. And you try to point this out, and you can't really get the women to see it. They're just up there just mad and whatnot, and then go into denial mode, and then it's always some mental gymnastics about what they're doing and how they're doing it and everything. It's always they always think that they can fast talk and out talk black men, and maybe they can when it comes to Pookie and Ray Ray and uneducated men. You know what I mean? But you try that shit with men of reasonable intelligence or advanced intelligence, like get the fuck out of here. And all they do is get mad and frustrated when these things are pointed out. Like, when the women go on Lead Attorney Show and they say some stupid shit, or go on Kevin So and they say some stupid shit. You know what I mean? How many times do we see the women that go up there and they say the shit that they say, and they really do think that they're saying something intelligent? It's like, that doesn't even make sense. You just got finished saying A, and now you're saying B. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. I was listening very carefully to what you're saying. This doesn't make any sense. Like even the way the women come on there, like, oh, I divorced my husband. And then they go into like trying to make the guy look like he was fucked up and everything else. Like, oh, he didn't have this. And it's like, and they don't even realize like how bad that makes them look. Oh, he was this and he was, okay, so why did you have the second child with him if you already identified that he wasn't X, Y, and Z? See, they try to make it seem like they're the victims to some of these men that they went and married and then later divorced. And then it's like, but you had 2 children by this dude. Why, if he was messed, I'll give you the 1, but you had 2. And then they sit there and it's so crazy to me. Like, even when I see it on Kevin Show, because I'm saying to myself, I'm like, you've been pulling this bullshit for years. to the point that you're not even intelligent enough to recognize how much that's not going to work to people who are actually intelligent. Like that just goes to show me, like, the people that you surround yourself by, or whether you're around your girlfriends or whatever, like you get what I'm saying? Like they're around people that co-sign this bullshit. Like I'm like, your shit has never been challenged, and you're arrogant and cocky and think you're so smart, and then you get up on, you know, uh, YouTube, and you get up on a live stream, and then you sitting there acting like you're going to say the typical bullshit that you say to everybody around you in your little small town, a city, or whatever, and you think it's going to fly. You see, like, and the thing is like, that's, to me, I'm going to be real. Shit like that is unredeemable. You know what I mean? If you a pathological liar, you're a pathological liar. If you're a pathological exaggerator, you're a pathological exaggerator. If you're a pathological dodge accountability, that is who you are. So it's like, again, having these revelations, I'm like, look, if these women are who they are and they can't be changed, like this is truly a waste of time. You know what I mean? And I know the comments are gonna go, see, nigga, I told you. Shut the fuck up. Some of y'all motherfuckers that like to write comments like that, y'all just fucking lazy and you didn't want to do shit. You didn't want to correct the problem anyway, or you're trying to justify swirling it up or hopping the fence or getting with Becky or whatever else you want to do any goddamn way. You know what I mean? Like, but yet you're still here. You're still in my comment section. You gave up a long time ago, but you're still in my comment. I'm telling you, let me go out here and hop the fence and get with Becky or Mingsu or Chun-Li or Maria or whoever. And you ain't gonna hear from me. You know what I mean? All that bullshit to be over the fence, married, have mixed children, and do like Karazin and be live streaming about, black women and the black community. Please. You ain't gonna hear from me. Because at that point, my priorities have completely shifted. I got to deal with my mixed household and my mixed children, and in a world where I'm not going to sit there and try to do like Umar Johnson with his non-philosophically consistent ass and start one-dropping, ruling, biracials into the room. Like, he's such an idiot. I'm just going to say that. Umar Johnson is such an idiot. Yes, we know that the system of white supremacy defines mixed people as non-whites. But for him to sit there and talk about how it's so important to get with a black woman and make sure your resources go to the black woman. But then as soon as that brother that was with the white woman went up there and was like, well, my kids are black. And then Umar Johnson just paused and stopped. Like, he was like, yes, that's true. I'm like, you're an idiot. So you got a problem with a black man being with a white woman, but the byproduct of that union, you're going to one-drop rule it into the black community. Like, you're an idiot. Then that just opens up the floodgates for, well, if I can still produce black children, what do I need a black woman for? I can get with a Scandinavian blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman and still produce black children. Please direct me to the white supremacists, white nationalists, and Ku Klux Klan members that are sitting around talking about how they can go out there and get with a black woman from the Congo and still produce white children. See, again, that's some other nonsensical shit that makes me want to give up on black people in the black community. It's nonsensical. I'm like, man, we can't even get our identity straight. And motherfuckers want to, just pass go and collect $200 and then talk about some other more complex shit. And you can't even get the basics right, my nigga. You can't even get the basics right. It's just nuts. At the end of the day, Umar Johnson is just a fucking, a street dude that uses big words, man. That's all he is. And it was so funny. I went back and watched that Lean On Me scene where he was talking to the parent-teacher conference, and you had Miss Barrett who stood up, which is, we all know Miss Barrett, the black woman that, her sons, committed 5 murders, and she's up there talking about my baby ain't do no wrong, right? But the way, and it was funny because you got to think about the fact that this was scripted. And this movie came out in 1989. Okay, that's like what, almost 30 years ago, right? And this theme was scripted to where she said, "This isn't church." And then here you got Morgan Freeman. He puts on his pastor voice. And then next thing you know, the whole room was, I know that's right. Amen. Again, demonstrating to you how simple-minded black people are. Which is why folks like Hillary Clinton could just show up at a black church. You know what I mean? And talk about having hot sauce in her purse, and black people just, amen, I know that's right, oh, that's right, she black, just like her husband was the first black president, truly, because that white boy played a mean fat saxophone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, like these are the type of things that, in my opinion, if you want to talk about, areas of self-hatred, these are the type of things that would create self-hatred in me. Because you have so many people, it gets to like a point where it's like goes beyond the critical mass. You have so many people that have so many stupid ideas and they can't see the forest for the just like we can't get black people to stop voting for the Democrats. They do not have to cater to you because you're going to fucking vote for them again in the next election. You got a pimp hoe relationship. You're an abused, battered wife that won't leave her husband no matter what. So why should he stop cheating on you? You're not going to leave. You know what I'm saying? It's the little things, and they all compile up to create this clusterfuck of a situation. Everything. The matriarchal bullshit. The super ultra religious magical thinking bullshit. The money doesn't matter, or money only matters in the hands of a black woman, but not in the hands of a black man. Gender fucking confusion. Women out here who think they're smarter than the men and just like, think that they can just slick talk their way out of shit and think they're making sense when they're not making sense. It's like and then you had the street culture that, everybody is just, they're just so enamored with, and they've dropped anchors in the shit. Dropped anchors in the bullshit. Grabbing a polished turd and buffing that shit out until there's a mirror shine. It's like I told somebody a long time ago. I was like, you do realize that if we actually fixed the community, many things that you love about the community would not exist. Black people think that a fixed black community is a black community that has, tons of resources, and everybody's living good in a 4-bedroom house with a 3-car garage, and all the men, look like Pop Smoke, and all the women look like Nicki Minaj. That whole culture would be dead, because all of that came out of what? Black people being disenfranchised. All that culture came out of what? Prolonged exposure to poverty. If anything, we would look like the stable elements of other community, which is overwhelmingly, controlled and operated by the corny people, or the people who would be deemed corny by the definitions of the black community. There would be no swag. Swag is not important. Swag is insignificant. You know what I mean? It'd be like when you see fucking Indians and shit, and they, in the club trying to holler at a chick, Bitch, do you know what I do? Do you know what I do? I do, like it's all about how much money they make and what they do. I don't have to have game. Bitch, I'm a doctor. Bitch, I don't have to have game. I'm an engineer. Bitch, I don't have to have game. I don't need any of that stuff. My family has a name and a pedigree, and you need to recognize that shit and get with this. And the women do get with the shit. That's what it would look like if it was an intact, thriving, patriarchal black community. And the thing is what some of you all can't comprehend is if that was the norm, that would be your value system. It may look disgusting and detestable to you from the standpoint of where you are now. But again, if I could go back in the time machine and take out Biff Tannen and whatnot and grab the almanac, you know what I'm saying, and be on a different timeline, you wouldn't know the difference. It would be like the fucking Mandela effect and whatnot, and the damn, freaking Fruit of the Loom having the freaking cornucopia in it and whatnot. That people say there was never a cornucopia in it. I remember a cornucopia. It would be like that type of shit. You wouldn't know the difference. You know what I mean? If people talk about, I don't remember Tony the Tiger having a blue nose. I thought he had a black nose. Things like that. You wouldn't know the difference. It's like if you went in a time machine and assassinated somebody and they disappeared in a different timeline, you wouldn't miss them because you wouldn't even know that they exist. It's like Thanos when he snaps his fingers and shit like that. If Thanos was smart, he would have snapped his fingers and not only made half the universe disappear, but wiped the memories of everybody else who also existed. And then Thanos would have won, and that would have been the end of the movie. Because the Avengers wouldn't have thought, oh, we got to defeat Thanos to go and bring back Spider-Man and everybody else. No. They would have been like, who the fuck is Spider-Man? There wouldn't even be a word for Spider-Man. They'd have been like, they would just woke up one day like, I feel strange. And they would have went about their business. Literally, that would have been the end of the movie. Telling you, don't fucking give me Thanos' glove, man. Shit. Type of supervillain I would be, please, man. Please. Forget about it. I'm like, why didn't you wipe their memories? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, fucking stupid. You can make everybody in the universe disappear, but you can't make all the people who stayed forget that all the other people disappeared. Like, nigga. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Again, this is my mood. This is how I'm feeling. Like I said, I'll probably post the other 2 videos when I get a chance. I just need to do it. I just need to stop bullshitting and do it. But this is just how I'm feeling right now. Anyway, that's my video. SWP out.